In the heart of New Orleans, Louisiana, nestled among the city's rich history and vibrant culture, sits a mansion that has become the talk of the town. This grand residence, once believed to be a church, is now home to one of the most famous couples in the world, Beyoncé and Jay-Z. But while their lives have been filled with glamour and success, there are whispers that the mansion might not be as peaceful as it seems. The house, with its towering columns and intricate architecture, stands as a reminder of New Orleans' deep roots in both history and mystery. Legends surrounding the mansion tell of its past as a place of worship, a site where people gathered for prayer and reflection. However, some believe that the spirits of those who once walked its halls may still linger, unable to fully depart. Local lore suggests that strange occurrences have taken place in and around the mansion. Neighbors report seeing flickers of light in the windows late at night, even when no one is supposed to be home. Some say they've heard faint echoes of voices or seen shadows moving inside, though there's no explanation for these eerie phenomena. The most chilling of all are the accounts of a mysterious figure sometimes seen standing in the front yard, an image that disappears as quickly as it appears. Beyoncé and Jay-Z have always been private about their personal lives, and while they have never confirmed or denied any supernatural happenings, the rumors continue to circulate. Whether it's the house's rich history or the energy of the city itself, there's no denying that something mysterious may be at play. For those who live in New Orleans, this mansion is more than just a celebrity home. It's a piece of the city's haunted history, adding to the ongoing tale of spirits, legends, and the unexplainable that define this city. As the days pass, the stories about Beyoncé and Jay-Z's mansion in New Orleans only seem to grow more intense. Some of the most chilling accounts come from the housekeepers and staff who have worked in the mansion. They speak of strange occurrences, like objects mysteriously moving, doors that open and close on their own, and whispers in the hallways when no one is around. One staff member even claimed to hear soft footsteps behind them, but when they turned around, there was no one in sight. In one particularly eerie incident, the housekeeper arrived early one morning to find the grand chandelier in the foyer swinging violently, despite the absence of wind or any logical explanation. When they tried to call Beyoncé and Jay-Z security, the phone lines were strangely dead. It wasn't until the couple's team arrived later that day that everything seemed to return to normal. And yet, despite the unsettling reports, the power of the mansion seems to be undeniable. Those who step foot inside often remark on the overwhelming energy that fills the space, an energy that is both magnetic and unnerving. It's as if the house itself is alive, pulsing with memories from its past. The air feels thick, heavy with history and echoes of a time long gone. There are even rumors that some of New Orleans' most experienced paranormal investigators, intrigued by the stories, have tried to explore the mansion, only to back out after experiencing things they couldn't explain. Some say the mansion has its own heartbeat, a rhythm that becomes more intense the longer you stay. One chilling tale comes from a local medium who visited the mansion during a quiet evening. After walking through the grand front door, they immediately felt a presence, something ancient, protective, yet unsettling. The medium described an old, elderly woman in white, standing in the corner of the parlor, staring out of the window. But when the medium turned to speak to her, she was gone, leaving only a faint, cold breeze lingering in the room. Local legends even suggest that the spirits of the house may have begun to recognize the famous couple as part of the mansion's legacy. Could Beyoncé and Jay-Z unknowingly be the latest in a long line of residents who have encountered the house's spectral inhabitants? Or is there something more to their connection to the property, an unspoken bond that ties them to this haunted space in a way no one can fully comprehend? And it's not just the mansion's haunting past that raises questions. Over time, certain people close to the couple have claimed to experience odd, almost supernatural events when they visit, from vivid dreams that seem too real to dismiss, to inexplicable feelings of dread. Some have even mentioned seeing shadows darting across rooms or feeling an intense sense of déjà vu, as if they've been to this house before, in another time. As for the couple themselves, Beyoncé and Jay-Z remain tight-lipped. They've never publicly commented on any of the stories or rumors surrounding their home. But there's a part of the public that wonders if they, too, have felt the pull of the mansion's mysterious past. Could their silence be a way of acknowledging something they can't fully explain? Or is it simply another part of the mystique that surrounds their larger-than-life personas? As time passes, the unsettling whispers surrounding Beyoncé and Jay-Z's mansion only grow louder. While the couple continues to maintain their air of mystery, the mansion's strange occurrences become harder to ignore. Neighbors have begun to share their own eerie experiences, each one adding to the growing web of intrigue. One neighbor, an older woman who has lived in the neighborhood for decades, claims that she often hears faint sounds of a choir singing late at night, drifting through the air from the direction of the mansion. The melody is described as hauntingly beautiful, but unnervingly distant, as if it comes from another time. Some believe the sounds are the spirits of the old church, forever lingering in the air, while others insist it's the mansion itself calling out to those who will listen. Then, there are the reports from the mansion's surrounding grounds. People walking by have claimed to see fleeting figures standing in the large windows, figures that seem to watch them, observing from within the shadows. But when they blink, those figures are gone. It's as though the house is playing games with its onlookers, inviting them to peer into its dark secrets, only to snatch them away when they get too close. Curiously, there's one spot on the property that seems to attract the most attention. Just outside the mansion, near an old oak tree that has stood for centuries, there's an area that some say feels different. Those who stand there for too long describe an overwhelming sense of unease, as if something is watching them from behind the thick layers of the tree's gnarled branches. A few brave souls claim to have heard whispers, soft and unintelligible, coming from the ground beneath their feet. Could this be the site of some kind of ancient ritual, a dark history that the mansion is desperately trying to keep buried? Local historians have also begun to take a deeper interest in the mansion's past. When they dig into the property's history, they uncover a series of unsettling facts that had previously been hidden. It's revealed that the mansion was once home to a wealthy family who mysteriously disappeared during the late 1800s. All that was left behind were their belongings and strange markings etched into the walls of the house, symbols that resembled ancient, forgotten rites. But no one knows what became of them, or whether the family's disappearance had anything to do with the mysterious energy that now seems to permeate the house. And then, the more bizarre reports begin to surface, people claiming to see Beyoncé and Jay-Z walking in the garden, their faces serene, almost trance-like. Those who see them say the couple appears unaffected by the strange energy around them, as though they are part of the mansion itself. It's as if the spirits of the house have chosen them, perhaps not by chance, but by fate. One evening, a curious incident occurred that caught the attention of many. A famous paranormal investigator, well known for debunking myths and exposing hoaxes, took it upon himself to spend a night inside the mansion, hoping to shed light on the mystery once and for all. The investigator, known for his skepticism, was left speechless by what he experienced. He reported hearing the sound of heavy footsteps following him through the halls, despite being alone. At one point, he said he felt a cold breath on the back of his neck, and when he turned around, no one was there. As he made his way to the old chapel room, once the heart of the mansion, he reported feeling an overwhelming pressure in the air, as though the room itself was alive and watching him. By morning, the investigator had left the mansion in a hurry, his face pale and his hands shaking. He refused to speak about his experience, though those close to him insist he was forever changed by the night he spent inside the mansion. Some even wonder if the spirits of the house had made their presence known, guiding him to see something that others could not. Now, the mansion has become more than just a celebrity home. It has transformed into a place of mystery and legend, where the boundaries between the living and the dead seem to blur. Could Beyoncé and Jay-Z truly be the new guardians of this haunted space, forever entwined with its dark past? Or is there something darker at play, something ancient that no one is prepared to face? The mansion holds its secrets tight, but as more stories surface, it's clear that there is far more to this haunting than anyone could have imagined. And as the world watches, the mansion's mysteries continue to unfold slowly, deliberately leaving everyone wondering. What is really happening inside those walls? And what is the price of knowing the truth? Don't forget to subscribe and like if you liked this story. As the weeks go by, the whispers about Beyoncé and Jay-Z's mansion intensify, and the mansion itself seems to grow more alive with each passing day. Some claim that the mansion's energy is now far darker, its presence more insistent, as if it recognizes that its secrets are being unraveled. The eerie stories spread like wildfire, and it's no longer just locals who are talking. Visitors from across the world are now showing up in New Orleans, hoping to glimpse the haunted mansion that has captivated the public's imagination. One evening, a group of thrill-seekers, a well-known urban exploration team, made their way into the mansion, determined to document the truth behind the rumors. Armed with cameras, recording equipment, and a desire to capture paranormal evidence, they spent hours navigating the mansion's labyrinthine halls. As they entered the old chapel room, the one with the strange symbols on the walls, the atmosphere grew heavier, almost suffocating. The temperature in the room dropped drastically, their breath visible in the cold air, even though the rest of the house remained warm. It was then that they began to hear its soft, almost melodic chanting, barely audible over the sound of their own movements. The group immediately turned their cameras on, trying to capture the source of the sound, but as they moved closer to the center of the room, the chanting abruptly stopped. The silence was deafening, but it wasn't the stillness that unsettled them the most. It was the sudden feeling of being watched, of something lurking just out of sight. They quickly left the room, only to find that the door to the chapel, which they had left wide open, was now firmly shut behind them, as if some unseen hand had closed it. Panicked but determined, the team made their way up the mansion's grand staircase, their footsteps echoing through the empty halls. As they reached the top floor, they were drawn to a peculiar door, one they hadn't noticed before. Unlike the other rooms in the mansion, this door was covered in elaborate, intricate carvings, depicting strange figures and symbols that none of them could immediately recognize. The carvings seemed almost alive, shifting ever so slightly as they stared at them. The team hesitated, unsure whether to open it, but curiosity overcame them. As the door creaked open, they were met with a sight they never could have anticipated. The room was dimly lit, with flickering candles casting long shadows on the walls. At the far end of the room stood a large mirror, its surface obscured by a thick layer of dust. But as one of the explorers stepped closer to the mirror, they saw something that made their blood run cold. The reflection didn't match the room around them. Instead, the mirror showed a different scene, one that appeared to be set in the past. In the reflection, a group of people dressed in old-fashioned clothing stood around a table, their faces obscured in shadow. The figures seemed to be engaged in some kind of ritual, their hands raised in unison, chanting in a language that no one could understand. Suddenly, the mirror seemed to ripple, as though it were no longer just a reflection, but a doorway. The group froze, unsure of what they were witnessing. One of the team members, drawn by an almost magnetic force, reached out and touched the mirror's surface. The moment their fingers made contact, the temperature in the room dropped to freezing levels. They pulled their hand away in shock, but something had changed. The mirror no longer showed the past. Instead, it showed a different reflection. An image of Beyoncé, standing in the room, her face partially obscured by shadows. She appeared calm, almost serene, but there was something unsettling about her presence, an unnatural stillness that made their hearts race. Before they could process what they had just seen, the room grew dark. The candles flickered out, leaving them in complete blackness. Panic set in as the group fumbled for their flashlights, but when the light flickered back on, the mirror had disappeared along with the door they had just opened. In its place was only a wall, solid and impenetrable. They rushed out of the room, retracing their steps through the mansion, but as they passed the grand staircase, they noticed something chilling. At the top of the stairs, standing in the shadows, was a figure tall, draped in a flowing white gown. It was a woman, but her features were too obscured to make out clearly. Her head was tilted slightly, as if studying them, but there was an unnatural calmness to her presence. The group froze, their hearts pounding in their chests. One of them tried to speak, but the words stuck in their throat. The figure, without a sound, began to move toward them. But before they could react, the mansion seemed to come alive. The floorboards creaked, the air became thick, and the walls themselves seemed to pulse with a dark energy. The group stumbled toward the front door, desperate to escape, but the mansion didn't make it easy. The door that had been wide open earlier was now locked tight. The tension in the air reached its peak as they struggled, but no matter what they did, the door wouldn't budge. In their final moments inside, one of the explorers looked back toward the staircase. The figure in the white gown was no longer standing there. She was at the foot of the stairs, slowly, deliberately moving toward them, her face still hidden in shadow. Suddenly, with a deafening crash, the front door flew open on its own, and the group bolted out into the night, gasping for breath. They never spoke publicly about what happened inside the mansion, but the footage they recorded that night capturing the strange sounds, the eerie reflections, and the mysterious figure was enough to leave everyone who saw it in stunned silence. No one knew what the team had truly experienced in that house, but the mansion's legend had only grown darker. As for Beyoncé and Jay-Z, the rumors only intensified. Were they aware of the mansion's haunting history? Did they know about the strange occurrences that seemed to follow them wherever they went? Or had they, too, become part of the mansion's dark legacy, somehow connected to the spirits that refused to leave? The night that the exploration team fled from the mansion was just the beginning. As weeks passed, the rumors about Beyoncé and Jay-Z's house in New Orleans spread far and wide, capturing the attention of the media, paranormal enthusiasts, and even the general public. But for the couple, life seemed to continue as usual. They remained elusive about the mansion's haunting reputation, offering no comment on the strange reports. Some speculated that they were too afraid to acknowledge what was happening, while others believed they were complicit in keeping the mystery alive. Then, one evening, something happened that changed everything. Beyoncé, known for her strength and poise, gave an unexpected interview. It was a late-night talk show appearance, and the host, with a glimmer of curiosity, asked her about the rumors surrounding her New Orleans mansion. For the first time, Beyoncé responded, her eyes sharp and focused, but her voice calm. "People talk about ghosts and spirits," she said, "but sometimes there are things we don't understand. Things that don't have an explanation. Maybe the mansion is connected to something bigger. Maybe it's part of the energy of the city. Or maybe it's something more, something older than any of us could imagine." Her words seemed cryptic, but they struck a chord with viewers. Was she hinting that she had felt the same eerie presence in the house? Had she seen something that couldn't be explained? Later that night, a strange event occurred in the mansion itself. Beyoncé and Jay-Z had been away for a few days on business, but when they returned, they noticed something chilling. The house, which had always been filled with an odd sense of calm, felt different. The air seemed denser, heavier, and there was an unmistakable presence lingering within the walls. A feeling that something or someone was watching them. As they walked through the house, they could hear the faintest sound. A soft, melodic hum that seemed to come from nowhere. It was the same melody that the neighbors had spoken of, a haunting tune that floated through the air like a forgotten prayer. It led them to the old chapel room, the heart of the mansion, where the strange symbols were etched into the walls. The room was cold, colder than it had ever been, and the candles, which had not been lit in weeks, flickered to life as if by some unseen hand. The air seemed to hum with energy, thick and ancient. And then, as they stepped into the center of the room, the mirror appeared once more. The same mirror that had shown the group of explorers the reflection of the past. This time, however, it wasn't the past it showed. It was Beyoncé herself standing in the same room, but her reflection was different. Her eyes were black as night, her posture unnaturally rigid, and her expression vacant. It was as though the mirror was showing her a version of herself that didn't belong in this world, a version twisted by the mansion's energy. For a brief moment, Beyoncé felt her heart race. She stepped back, but the mirror's reflection did not move. Instead, the room seemed to draw her closer, as though the mansion itself was calling to her, trying to pull her in. Jay-Z, sensing her unease, reached for her hand. But as he touched her, he too was drawn into the mirror's pull. Both of them were now staring into the reflection, unable to look away. For a brief, terrifying moment, they saw something else, something beyond their own reflection. There, in the depths of the glass, were the faces of the people from the mansion's past, those who had vanished without a trace. Their eyes were filled with sorrow, anger, and a sense of longing. They were trapped, forever bound to the house. Suddenly, with a force that shook the walls, the mirror shattered, its pieces scattering across the floor like broken glass. The room grew deathly silent. Beyoncé and Jay-Z stood motionless, their eyes wide in shock. The coldness lifted, but a new tension lingered in the air. It was as if something had shifted, something irreversible. And in the stillness, they both knew the truth. The mansion had claimed them, not as its victims, but as its new inhabitants, its new guardians. The spirits that haunted the mansion had recognized them, chosen them. Beyoncé and Jay-Z were now bound to the house in ways that no one could fully understand. Perhaps the mansion was more than just a home. It was a living entity, feeding off the energy of those who lived within its walls. Perhaps, too, Beyoncé and Jay-Z's fame, their success, and their connection to the city had somehow made them vessels for the house's ancient power. From that day forward, strange things continued to happen in the mansion. But now, the couple seemed unfazed by it. They never spoke publicly about their experiences, but those who visited the mansion claimed to feel the same unnerving energy, the same presence that had haunted the house for centuries. Some say that when you walk by the mansion at night, you can still hear the faint echoes of a haunting melody drifting from within. Others claim to have seen silhouettes in the windows, faint figures, perhaps Beyoncé and Jay-Z themselves, still standing guard over the mansion, watching over the spirits that had once ruled the house. And so, the mansion remains, its dark legacy still unfolding, its mysteries unsolved, its spirits forever intertwined with those who dare to call it home. As for Beyoncé and Jay-Z, they continue to live their lives, but now, they live with the knowledge that they are part of something far larger, far older, than anyone could ever imagine. The mansion story is far from over. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you liked this story. Any coincidences with real events or characters are accidental.